all the bystander has to do to provide assistance is to dial 911. It strikes me as a really low bar. Then one more word, then I far prefer discussion and questions. I don't know how many of you are sports fans. There are 3, so I'm writing a sequel to the first book now. And I'm looking at 3 different episodes of 3 different incidents, one uglier than the next. Those of you who are sports fans, if you know anything about Michigan State University and Larry Nassar, who was the osteopathic physician who raped, sexually violated somewhere between 150 to 214 girls. I last week interviewed one of them, because this is what I do. Because she's the victim, and what I'm trying to understand is not only through the lens of the victim, but through the enablers who knew about the fact that for 25 years Nassar was raping / sexually violating the girls. That's one episode. The other, again, if you're college football fans, Penn State University, what happened there with Jerry Sandusky. And the third is this really small institution some of you may have heard of called the Catholic Church. Because there's no doubt that what happened in the Catholic Church over the years with the priests and the boys. So those are the 3 things I'm looking at in the new book. Because for me, again, to prove the point about complicity, the bystander and the victim, the only way I know how to do this is to bring it to the reader's attention through 2 different lenses. Lenses? What's the plural of lenses? Lensi? Whichever, A or B. 1, the victim, and 2, the bystander. And that's why, for me, I'm grateful for this opportunity. The book came out, the first book came out 2 years ago. I teach Wednesday through Saturday in Salt Lake City. I get on a plane literally every Sunday. I travel every Sunday through Tuesday. This is what I've been doing for the past 2 years, worldwide, giving this talk. And for me, I talk to old people like me, which is kind of boring. It's far more interesting to talk to people like you. You guys are 3 minutes away from college. And for me to get feedback from people like you is, for me, really, really critical. If this makes any sense, if this is boring as hell, or if there is something about this that sounds interesting, with that I have done. Questions, anxieties, concerns, unless I put you all to sleep. Sir in the back.
I don't know if I heard you correctly, but did you say you were looking for the viewpoint of the victim and
The bystander.
Oh, the victim and the bystander.
Right.
That's the perpetrator.
No, the perpetrator doesn't interest me. For instance, in the Holocaust, there's been a bazillion written about Hitler, Heimler, Heydrich, Eichmann. They don't interest me in the least. What is of interest to me, and I use the word relationship because more often than not, the victim who's on the ground and the bystander, they have no idea who the hell each other are. So there's a relationship like this. It's a random bystander. That is what's of interest to me, and I don't know if any of you are interested in psychology, but it's really interesting for reasons that are unclear to me. But it's called victim expectation. Is a field in psychology that has gone totally understudied, and I don't know why. So the perp for me, the football player Vandenberg or Strohmeyer, the rapist, murderer in Vegas, they don't interest me. It's what's the thought process of the bystander. And more importantly than that, what is it the victim wants? And quote unquote, no? Does the victim have expectations of the bystander? But I need to add the following. And I want to be really, 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 really careful here. When I interviewed last week one of the women from Michigan, one of the 214 women from Michigan State, we're going to refer to her as Jane Doe 1. That is at her request. Let's leave it at that. It's Jane Doe 1. And please don't ask me beyond that. But here's what she says. She does not call the bystander the bystander. This is her speaking. She today is a woman in her 30s, but she was, 14, 15. She says the bystander was an enabler. And I found that to be a really, really interesting differentiation. For her, for Jane Doe 1, the bystander is passive. the enabler is active. So I'm working with a legislator in the state of Utah, on legislation in the state of Utah, and we've had last week a really interesting discussion about the enabler as compared to the bystander. And I don't know the answer to that, but I want to put that out there, that from her perspective, as I emphasize, she was 14, 15 when she was assaulted, and while undergoing an examination. And she says that all those who knew about it, including, by the way, the now fired president of Michigan State University, who was on trial, federal court, for having committed perjury. There are, at Michigan, at the state of Michigan, the Attorney General of the state of Michigan is trying to get her hands on 10,000 emails over a 25-year period that demonstrate enabling rather than bystanding. So I'm sharing with you stuff that's literally quote unquote hot off the press, because this is all, where are we, Tuesday? This is all, for me, happened in the last 5-6 days. So, I mean, that's what I'm putting out there. By the way, if anybody wants to write the book instead of me, they told me these are all super smart people, they could write the book instead of me. Fire away with questions. Sir.
You mentioned you've been speaking to state legislators about creating legislation. I'm curious what questions they ask you and any resistance they have to your idea.
There are 5 reasons to vote against the legislation. Reason number 1 would, and I will tell you the reasons, and I will tell you some of the counter responses, and then I will tell you some of the reasons make no sense to me at all whatsoever. Okay? Reason number 1, you cannot legislate compassion. I have no idea what the hell that means, but that's what we were told last month in Utah. I don't know what that means. I have no idea what that means, so I can't respond to that. Reason number 2, that there's a concern that the 911 will result in flooding the 911 system. We have done an empirical study of the 10 states that have this and the 14 countries that have this. We found no evidence of this whatsoever, but not having evidence doesn't mean that people can't make the argument. Okay? Reason number 3, that, I don't know how many of you are thinking about law school, that criminal legislation like this will result in civil suits. We have found no example whatsoever. Reason number 4, that for those who are libertarians, no more government, no more government. And reason number 5, I don't remember. There's a 5th reason, I don't remember what it is. But the primary reason is this notion that you cannot legislate morality. Makes no sense to me whatsoever. Other questions? Yes, fire away. I have a quick question. If you're a senior, I'm just curious where you're going to college, if you know. Is that embarrassing?
Yeah. Talk about a trigger question.
All right, sorry, move on.
Not everyone knows.
All right, move on.
All right.
Sorry.
Well, you were talking about the idea of like being required to call 911 if you witness something happening. Except, so like I would say that requires like a level of trust in the police and in the justice system that like a lot of people, like specifically like communities of color, don't have. So like, how do you reckon with that?
That is a fabulous, fabulous question. I 2 years ago gave a talk at UVA Law School, where I'm going next week. I gave the talk there before the book came out. I had 200 law students. And it was going swimmingly, the talk, until an African-American law student stood up and said to me the following: Professor Guiora, this is really interesting. What's the word after interesting? But, I quote, she became, first of all, I want to emphasize, she became extremely emotional. She said to me the following: when you, me, upper middle class white guy, dials 911, the immediate assumption is that you're the victim. When we, African Americans, or plug in any minority you want, dial 911, the immediate assumption is that we are perpetrators. And I want to emphasize, the room went dead quiet. She was extremely emotional. I said to her, because I don't know how to lie, I said, it's an issue we've never considered. I went back to the legislator in Salt Lake City, Brian King, and I said, Representative King, here's an issue we haven't thought about. Because in Salt Lake City, we don't have African-American community, we have a very large Latino community. We've met with law enforcement subsequent to her question, which is akin to your question. And here's the answer we got. You may roll your eyes or not roll your eyes, that I leave up to you. Was law enforcement as an entity is not a racist entity. Yes, there are rogue cops. Does that satisfy? I don't know, but it is an issue we're well aware of at two different levels. First of all, in gang culture, you know, snitches have stitches. For that, we don't really have an answer, but it is a reality that snitches have stitches. And the other one about the minority communities, it's a great question you asked. We don't have a great answer for that one, but it is a spot on question. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I have two questions for you.
One at a
First-
time, I'm not that smart.
Okay. First, do you think criminalizing complicity would lead to, if you're an eyewitness testifying in court, basically, I think you would get rid of like most eyewitnesses. Because if you don't call 911, you're not going to show up to court because you'll be indicted.